গাড়ি ছিল। তবে আমি বলতে চাই ক্যাপ্টেন আপনার
সুরক্ষিত আমার কাছে ওর হাসি।
Hello and welcome to the Edges of Earth. My name is Brock. While traveling in Dhaka, I met a couple of men. One of them was an editor at the Financial Express and he wanted to interview me. So I just went from my hotel on a journey to come to a park to meet him and where I will be interviewed.
Hello viewers, this is Ashaiqul Islam and beside me Brock from the USA and Mohammad Polash Khan from Dhaka. So welcome to this video session. So today we are here to sit with Brock to know about his experience as a tourist. He comes all the way from the USA and he lives like a common man in the countries he has been visiting so far. So, Brock, could you tell about yourself first? What you used to do in the USA and also briefly about your travel to the countries you are
I lived in the United States for I think around 27 years before I decided I wanted to travel the world. In the past, I was a photographer for many years. I was a real estate agent. I helped people buy and sell houses. And then I started a couple online businesses. And then I got involved in auto glass. And I also helped teach people on the internet when I was in the United States. Teach people English, I guess I should say. So I did those things within about the 10-year time frame of living there before I decided that I wanted to travel.
May I know how old are you?
I'm 31.
31?
Yeah.
Okay, only. Okay. You look very young.
Yeah,
so you are telling you started your exploring other countries since June 2016.
Yes.
So it's been more than 2.5 years to be specific. So how many countries have you visited so far?
Yeah, I still haven't added them up, but it's I think 20 or 21. I think Bangladesh is now number 21, maybe 20 or 22.
All these are Asian countries?
Nope. I've been to other places like France and Norway and Ireland, Scotland, the United Kingdom, Iceland, Canada, Mexico, Belize, Honduras, Cozumel, Curacao.
Any African country so far?
Not in this trip. This was before I started to travel when I was younger. I visited South Africa and Zimbabwe.
I also visited South Africa and Tanzania.
Really fun. I'm jealous.
It's a great fun.
Yeah.
Visiting Africa. How do you think people are across these regions? Do they differ?
How do they differ?
People are different.
Just crossing a border can make the biggest difference ever. I crossed the border from Vietnam to Cambodia by foot. The second I crossed over, it was just a different world. The buildings were structured different, the personalities were different, the language was different, just instantly. So yeah, just a couple meters over an imaginary line can create the world of difference. Absolutely.
Okay. So, and you're often away from your home country. So don't you miss your family members, your people?
Yes and no, I do, because obviously it's fun to be around them. I would miss them more if Facebook did not exist and social media didn't exist, because that I can follow every activity from every family member and every friend quite easily, right? If that did not exist, it'd be a bit of a struggle to be gone for so long.
I see. You said yes, you also miss them sometimes. What times do you miss them?
I would say holidays, specific holidays, the big ones, mainly Christmas. Christmas is it's a holiday where people, and Thanksgiving, where we get together, spend time with friends and family specifically for a day or a couple days. And sometimes I'm all alone on Christmas, just sitting there doing nothing in a different country because nobody celebrates that. So I'm just all alone. So there are moments, I would specifically say holidays.
Where
were you
in the last Christmas?
Last Christmas, I was in a small village in Bihar, India.
Oh my God.
And ironically, I got a knock on my door at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., something like that. They were pounding on my door, and they woke up to celebrate Christmas for me. They weren't quite sure how to celebrate Christmas, but they pounded on my door and they're like, here's a gift. And then I opened up a gift and it was fun. They made it a fun thing. The previous year, I was on a bus all day long in Vietnam. That was it.
I see. So do you feel pressure from your family members to go back to the country? Hey, why are you away so long from us? It's like this.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think our culture is a bit different than yours, and this is, yeah, I wouldn't say pressure to return. I think they feel the distance. We miss each other. That's about it. But in the beginning, when I told them I was leaving, I think the majority of the feeling my mother was having was fear. Like, I'm scared you are going out of our country to travel. It seems dangerous. And then my father, I feel like that was more of a financial thing. Like, you are exiting the country to travel the world and spend a lot of money without money in return. So what are you doing? What's your financial future going to look like? So that was, yeah, but I wouldn't say I have this urge to return at all. No pressure from family or friends, and definitely not for myself.
And what's your plan? How long will this continue? Traveling, exploring
Yeah,
other
so
countries?
this June will be my 3-year anniversary of basically being on the road. And to be honest, I have absolutely no end date in mind at all whatsoever. I think that I will continue this lifestyle until I flop over dead somewhere in some country.
Oh, really?
Like, this is a lifestyle. I feel like for me personally, and not everybody feels this way, but for me, I have a choice of, living the American dream, buying the house, getting married, having children, have the fast car, do all the fun things, yeah? Or I could choose to live this life, which is travel. Money is tight, money is lower, but the time freedom that I have is unimaginable, and the amount of fun that I'm having meeting local people around the world is just, it is the coolest thing ever. So when I weigh both scenarios, I literally push this one out the door, and this one wins by far. So do I want to stop living my dream? Absolutely not. This is just too much fun for me.
And you are enjoying life.
Totally. It's awesome.
Even in Bangladesh?
Totally. I've only been here for 4 or 5 days, and so far all of the people that I've met have been so kind, so friendly, so helpful in every way imaginable. So totally, it's been great so far.
Let's talk about language barrier.
Yeah.
So when you visit other countries, how do you manage to communicate with them? You know only one language, I guess.
Yep.
English.
Yep, so the first language I use is body language. That is number one. So I try to communicate by pointing, by touching, by smiling, by showing friendly body language, because usually when I go to a country, if you see a stranger walking the streets and you don't know them, you're kind of like, who are they? And I feel when I travel, people probably think the same about me. You're like, who is this guy? Is he dangerous? Let's try to read him. So I try to keep a kind body language so people feel comfortable when I'm a foreigner in their country. And then if I need something or want help or anything like that, I use body language first, because generally they don't speak English. But sometimes I'm surprised and people come to me and speak English. But if everything fails and no one understands my body language, then I take out my phone and use Google Translate. Google Translate has the ability, I can literally talk into my phone as long as I have internet connection, which is through a SIM card. Talk into my phone, and it'll translate into their native language. They can either listen to it or read it on the screen, and we communicate just perfectly. It's
Could you
amazing.
share the story of your visit to Vietnam and that senior person?
Yeah, so one example of this, of hundreds of examples, I was in Vietnam. I took a bicycle and a ferry across the Mekong River. Halfway, I met an island in the middle of the Mekong River with my bicycle, and I was riding my bike all throughout this island until I was thirsty, and I stopped at just a random coffee shop and had some tea, and I sat next to this little old man, and he couldn't speak a word of English, and I only knew choppy Vietnamese, and I took out my phone and we started to have this conversation that lasted almost an entire hour together, and we talked about just everything from family to past experiences, work, religion, everything. It was just beautiful. We were able to fully communicate to each other with maybe a 5% error in translation, but we got the point across every time, and we had the coolest conversation for almost an hour.
And for both of you, you used your phone. to Google Translate?
Oh, totally. Yep. He talks into my phone in Vietnamese. It translates to English. I understand it. I respond back. It translates to Vietnamese. And that works for almost every language.
Great.
It's amazing.
Brock, when you visit so many countries, don't you sometimes fall sick?
Yes, I am fortunate enough to have a pretty strong immune system, so I lasted 12 years of not having a single problem at all, like not even a common cold. So my immune system's pretty strong. Yeah, it's awesome, right? But then, yes, twice in Vietnam and once in Cambodia, where I ate something and it was not a fun 3 days, let's say that. But only those 3 experiences, and everything else has been great.
Do you work out?
I do not.
You do not?
I do not. I just walk. I walk.
You walk all
You
the
just said
long.
that you can do chin-ups and pull-ups.
Pull-ups, huh? Yeah.
Can you do that?
I
Chin-ups
can.
and pull-ups?
Oh, totally. I don't know how many. When I was younger, I think I was at second in my class and it was like 17 or 20. But now I think I'd max out at about 10 and probably would almost die.
Whoa. And how much do you weigh now?
You'd have to convert it. I weigh 150 or 155 pounds. And I think that's like 71 kgs, 70 kgs.
I think he's in pretty good shape for a
Yeah.
31-year-old.
Did you face any difficulties so far during your traveling to these countries?
I would say the most difficult part about traveling is preparing the visas. For me, that's very frustrating, very time-consuming. I wish I could just go to a country and say, here I am, can I come in? Let me pay a couple dollars and I'm finished. But it unfortunately is not like that. In some countries, they want to know half of your life story before you can enter. That to me is the challenge. That is the difficulty of traveling. Nothing else has really been difficult. I mean, in Asian countries or less developed countries, sometimes traffic is extremely difficult to get through. But we have similar problems in the United States. But generally, no. Visas are my biggest struggle. Visas, just getting a piece of paper saying yes, you can come to my country. That is my biggest struggle.
Was there any case of pickpocketing so far?
Yeah, there was actually. When I was in the Philippines, someone took my phone out of my pocket. He tricked me. He got really close to me. He wanted money. I didn't have any. I just came from a slum area where I spent all my money on rice and I handed out to all the poor families. And so when I was going back to my hotel, I literally had no money and he wanted money. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And so he took me by the elbow and he walked together with me. And he says, oh, please, sir. He looked me in the eyes and I'm like, I can't. And anyway, I go to the stoplight and traffic, reached for my phone, it was gone. He took it right out of my pocket. And just before I talked to him, I had it in my hands. So he reached in and grabbed it, and when I turned around, he was nowhere to be seen. So I was pickpocketed, but despite that one moment, everything else during my travels has literally it's been amazing. I mean, that is the only sour experience I've had in 2.5 years of travel.
Okay, and immediately after you were pickpocketed, then did you feel like, oh, enough is enough, I need to go back to my
Oh,
own
absolutely
country?
not. I don't even think I got very frustrated. It was just like, yep, this happened. Unfortunately, now I just have to continue without it. Like, it's just...
This could happen
yeah.
also in your country.
Oh, it absolutely could have. It can happen anywhere. Every country has struggles. Every country has a bit of crime. It is not specific to one country or the other. I mean, really. So, no, I just thought, yep, wrong place, wrong time, unfortunate, unlucky me. But the next day I got up and started traveling just as if I had a phone. There was no problem. Just keep going.
And Brock, whenever people from the USA visit other countries, they always check security situation in those countries. So do you do this?
Not at all. The only thing that I research before I go to a country is I will go online to determine if people have hate towards Americans or hate towards foreigners specifically. So I don't want to go to an area or a country or a region where if they say, there is a white man, there is a foreigner, I'm going to attack him because I don't like him. Just like that. That scares me. Everything else, petty crime, theft, I'm not even scared, not even a little bit. So that is the only research I do, and I will find people on the internet who live in those countries and send them messages and ask, what do people think about tourists coming? Do they hate us? Do they like us? Am I in danger? And based on their response, then I feel comfortable.
Okay. We understand you did do some homework about Bangladesh also.
Yep.
What was the outcome of your onward.
I'd like to make the question a little more specific.
Okay.
So, from your research,
Yeah.
before coming to Bangladesh, you did some research. From your research, you had an impression. How much did that impression match or mismatch when you stepped into this country?
Oh, matched identically. Basically, everyone that I talk to says, don't even worry, you can travel anywhere in our country and it's going to be safe. And this is coming from not one, not two, but at least 15 local people living all throughout Bangladesh. And they said, no, you'll be welcomed. Everything is great. Don't worry. There's no hate towards foreigners or hate towards someone of another religion. And because that would be scary for me to travel. Everyone says, no, it's fine. And I have come to the country and it's been just like they described. Everything has been fine. I've been only in Dhaka. I have not traveled out of Dhaka yet, but judging by what it's like in the city, I mean, I would assume that the cities generally are the more dangerous areas versus out of the city, and so I'm assuming it's going to be the same there. So to answer your question, it's identical to what people were describing. It's safe.
So, for your information, I'd like to say it's not Dhaka, it's Dhaka.
Really?
Yeah.
You pronounce it like kind of with a T.
Dhaka.
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 Oh, okay.
This one thing, and another thing is, the deeper you go to the rural areas, the more rural it gets,
Yeah.
the more friendlier people
That's
are.
awesome. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you cannot imagine people will really go out of their way to help you and be hospitable.
That's awesome.
towards you. It's worth experiencing.
Yeah, totally. That's so beautiful. That's cool.
And Brock, you do photography, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us about this photography, your video?
Yeah, so in the past I was a photographer, so I used that knowledge to start a YouTube channel basically. And so now I'm not really into photography, but more videography. I film myself as I travel around the world. In different situations, I generally put myself in areas where tourists don't go and they specifically avoid because maybe they have fear of an area. I tend to be pretty fearless. I go to areas where people say don't go. If you tell me not to go here, generally I want to go more. So I go to those places and I make videos and I interact with the local people in those areas. And it's just awesome. It's just
What's
so
the
much
source
fun.
of your courage? Do you have a background in martial arts?
No, but I tend to believe that
No background whatsoever.
no, not at all.
Krav Maga,
No,
karate, kung
nothing.
fu, nothing.
I think I could
Self-defense.
disarm and disable most people in case something were to arise.
Yes.
But generally, I'm calm. I
So
don't
you
like-
have
I
that
don't
kind
want-
of training.
I think I could manage, yeah. Unless someone had a physical weapon and it was hand-to-hand combat, I think I'd do all right.
Fine.
Here's that.
And Brock,
No, another question is,
Yeah.
do you have any professional training in photography and video editing, or you just
Absolutely not. I just said one day I want to do this, and so I just started.
train your own stuff?
Yep.
And Brock, I want to talk about food. So you find different types of food in this country. How do you adjust yourself?
So I don't even know how to answer this. Like, I don't adjust. I just get it and I eat. Like, everything is awesome. I just love trying different foods. When I got to India, I went insane insane in a good way. It was the best food ever. And since I've been in
Yes.
Bangladesh, it's the same. You guys, from my perspective, it's very similar. It's good food. So many spices, so much flavor. The only thing I don't really care for is spiciness, like hot, like chilies. And you guys tend to have some warm stuff here, so that for me is not as cool as, I guess, if you didn't have it. But it's not a problem. I mean, I
But you
eat-
can still eat.
I can manage.
eat,
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
and I do
manage.
every day.
So food is not a concern for you?
Oh no, no.
Oh, it was never a concern for you.
Never a
For
concern.
instance, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
This morning
lunch.
I had I don't know what you call it, but like a naan bread,
Yeah, naan bread and-
like lentil something.
I understand.
Okay,
great.
and then lunch was chicken and rice.
Oh, fine.
Chicken curry, the local dish.
I don't know, a piece of chicken with
broth,
sauce.
broth,
Yep, and then I
broth,
dipped. I poured that over my rice. That's it.
And Brock,
What was the bill?
Well, since I have been in the new area and I went in with local people, I've been getting local prices. But when I was in this area, just to get a small plate of rice and one small piece of chicken, it was 340 taka.
It must be one of those delicate restaurants, I guess.
It wasn't.
It wasn't? Still they priced you?
Yep.
And they got away with it?
Yep, because I didn't know what is right
my
and what
God.
is wrong.
uh-huh.
So, yep, that is a thing.
It's a shame.
That's a thing in every country.
He didn't have us as his guide.
Yeah. So food is all right with you.
Oh yeah, I would say 50% of my diet is fruit, and you guys have an abundance all over the streets. So I eat a small meal, and then generally I go out and buy a few pieces of fruit, and that is what I eat after every meal. So yeah, fruit is a big piece of my diet, and fruit is in every country, so totally easy.
So and sometimes you also have to spend time without food because maybe lack of time. You're
Yep.
traveling. So is it okay for you?
Yeah, in fact, to come to your country from India, traveling on trains and buses and such, sometimes I'm sure you've experienced this where during your travels there is food for sale, but it's generally not the cleanest food you've ever seen in your life, and so you avoid it. And so I think I went, 21 or 22 hours without eating just to come to Bangladesh. Yeah, the train station food, it just didn't quite fit, so I just avoided it. But the first time I seen an apple for sale, I went and got that. Yeah. Yeah. So generally, yeah, there are moments where I go without food for a long time, but it's not common. Not
Okay,
common.
and then let's talk about money crisis.
Yeah, yeah.
You're traveling abroad for long. Then do you all of a sudden find that your money is shrinking?
Yes, every day of my life I have this this feeling, this struggle. Yeah, so I saved a bit of money before I left, and every day it gets less and less. But I travel cheap. I've learned to travel like a local, so I don't go to the fancy hotels. I don't go to the fancy restaurants. I don't do any of those things. I stay at the cheap hotels. I go to eat a lot of street food or go to cheap restaurants. I don't do the things that most tourists do, which is, I'm in a new country, so let me go to the expensive hotel and live the expensive lifestyle for a week. My money, I spend very slowly and go to the cheaper places because my excitement is not to be in a beautiful hotel. My excitement is not to have a beautiful meal. My excitement is to go out and talk to local people and do local things.
You travel for experiences.
I travel for people, absolutely.
Travel
People
for
and culture.
people, not for food.
No.
Not for luxury, not for
No.
new sights.
I'm sure
nothing.
the hotel owners, hotel managers sometimes surprised to see you.
Every time I walk in, they're shocked. In every country,
These are
in
not
every.
the kind of people who drop in occasionally.
So
Not
okay,
even-
they're rather surprised.
Yep, every time. Same thing with a restaurant. I walk into a restaurant and the whole restaurant was talking. It's loud, like it's loud, and then one person turns and looks, and everybody turns to looks, and like the whole restaurant just stops. All you could hear a pin drop. It's just like silent. And this is like every time I go to a
Who's
restaurant.
this guy?
Yeah.
What's he doing
like,
here?
Yeah. So it sometimes gets interesting. I must
And
say.
then when you leave the restaurant, by the time you also already have some sort of conversation with some of the people.
Totally.
In the
Oh
restaurant.
yeah.
Okay.
Some people come and sit and have lunch with me or something, or they invite me to sit with them. I've had times where people literally bring me to their table and then they pay for the bill, and even though how many times I say no, please let me pay, they're like no.
They
And
didn't
so-
allow you to
Correct.
pay your.
So this happens
Yeah.
when you travel
Yeah.
the way I'm traveling and go to these local areas, and people don't see foreigners very often. People tend to coddle you. They tend to bring you close and know that you're vulnerable, and so they try to take extra care for you.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
really
especially
cool.
in this part of the world, India, Bangladesh,
Yeah.
you will find this type of hospitality. Did you find also hospitality in Vietnam and
Totally.
Philippines?
Yep. However, their hospitality is in a different way. Yeah, but in every country that I have visited, people have been very kind, very generous, very hospitable, and it's just they show it in different ways.
So do you sometimes visit the villages?
I love the villages. In fact, I would say that is 50% of the places that I travel constantly. I just came from India and I lived in the smallest village ever for 1 month.
1 month.
1 month. I
So-
volunteered at an impoverished school and I lived
Oh,
inside.
volunteered in a primary school?
Yeah. Yep.
You work as a teacher there?
Helper. I wouldn't. Yeah, I taught classes, but I just kind of. A lot of the time, I would play with the children, hang out with
Really?
them. Yeah, there was English classes that I taught them how to draw certain things. They had like an English book, and they were learning from that. And I taught a biology lesson. That was interesting.
So do you think they understood what you say?
Oh, I know they did. Absolutely.
How? So are
Google
they good in-
Translate.
Google Translate.
Yep. Yep. And I question them, and then they can provide me the correct answer. And I'm constantly asking, do you understand? Because if you don't, I mean, tell me. And you can judge their facial expressions and like, yeah. It was-
I'm sure they were very happy. The kids were very
Oh,
happy.
they were every
and
day.
You played with the kids.
Oh,
you said.
so much.
So just
So
like
much.
just like one of their classmates.
Totally. Yeah, it's just the coolest thing.
That's an exciting experience for them.
Totally.
So,
I think it went both ways. It wasn't
like
one-sided,
sometimes
that's for
as
sure.
a teacher, sometimes just like them as a student.
Yeah, totally.
Did you play football with them?
Yep.
Cricket?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep. I did it all.
Even teachers do not play with them.
Yeah.
As you see, most
Correct.
of the time. Sometimes they're only they work as referee or
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah, they were
But
excited.
You played with them.
Even after school, we'd go, I would say, hey, I'm going to walk over here. Anybody who wants to come, let's go. And then some people would just come and we'd just go in a crowd and we'd just walk. Just hang out and walk in the village together, and
really?
and their English was extremely limited, so a lot of our communication is body language, a lot of it. And they would point at things and teach me the Hindi word, and I would point at things and teach them the English word, and then our vocabulary would grow by the end of the day.
So do you have any such plan to visit Bangladesh, rural areas?
Totally. In fact, after Dhaka, I'm going to finish in the next couple days. Absolutely. I'm going to travel. I think my first stop is Sylhet, and then there's a couple small villages I want to travel to along the way. While I'm in Sylhet, there's someone who's already planning to help me, and he says he's going to take me outside of the city to an extremely small village. So I'm excited for that, to experience what it's like in your
And
country.
you can lead a very normal life in the village, just like normal, common people live.
Yeah, very,
So-
totally. Very basic, very...
Very basic.
Yeah, I think it's
So-
amazing. I think it's beautiful. I think from my perspective, growing up in the United States, we have everything. Like the majority of people have a lot. I mean, your house is full of stuff. You have all the TVs, all of the electronics, everything. I mean, so much stuff. Like you can't even play with it all. And then you come to a place, that's still developing, and you go to a small village and they have like nothing. Like. I mean, people just want a pen. Like, please, can I have like a new pen? Like, their life is so simple. And yeah, some people would look at it as tragic, like, oh, they don't have a lot of stuff. But the way I look at it is, they don't have a lot of things, but what they do have is time, and more specifically, time with each other. They're laughing, they're playing, they're having fun with each other, and that is something that we just lack in the West from my perspective. We're so focused on earning money, we're so focused on work, we're so focused on everything that is just not as important as spending time with friends and family. And that is what I see a lot of in the village, and I love it.
I'm sure you will definitely get the opportunity of mixing with the village people.
Oh, I
and
hope
they
so.
Will, they will also
I
love
hope
you.
so. I hope to go and play games with so many of them.
During this time, how many weeks more are you planning to stay in Bangladesh?
I think my grand total is like 25 days, so I think I have about 20 more days of travel.
So don't you sometimes visit the historical places?
Nope, I don't. I
You don't?
completely avoid them. Not that I have anything bad against history, it's just my focus is primarily on people and culture, and I want to interact with people. To me, that's the most important
People
thing.
matters.
People,
People first.
Yep, people, communicating with people is number one. Always. Like, that is the thing that I travel the world for, people.
So do you think in Dhaka, or over the last 5 days, you have talked to many people?
Tons.
Really?
Yeah, like so many. I met a guy on the streets. I needed internet, and I walked into a bakery because I didn't have a SIM card yet. Walked into a bakery and said, hey, do you have internet here? And he says, no, we don't. Wait. And he runs outside, runs across the street. He fills up his SIM card, comes back, and he says, yep, we have internet. So he broadcasts his phone to my phone. So now I have internet, and then I can catch up on social media and all the things. And he says, but wait, I have 2 SIM cards. I haven't used this in like 6 months. Here, take it. And then now I went to fill that up, and so now I have his old SIM card, which is helping me get internet. It's just amazing. It's
He
so
just,
beautiful.
he just gave the SIM card.
Totally
to you.
gave it to me. He was just the kindest guy ever.
It was a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Okay.
amazing. So, but that's just one example of many of the people that I've met already, and they're so willing to help. It's just amazing. It's beautiful.
So instead of visiting the historical places, the most attractive places where tourists always visit, you love to mix with people, you love to know about their culture. So do you think you are a different Brock now? You're Brock before June 2016 and Brock now in January 2019?
Totally. 2 things. One, I've always appreciated everything that I've had in the United States. You know, I come from a middle-class family, and we never struggled in any way growing up. So I had everything I ever really wanted. but I always appreciated what I have. But since I started to travel, especially to Asia, I have learned to appreciate the things, even more basic things, on a deeper level. So that's number one. Number two, I have learned that I have become more confident in the idea that people around the world are safe rather than dangerous. And I think media, movies, radio, everything that we can put in our hands and read and watch and understand, it has a feeling of fear. It puts a feeling of fear into many Westerners. Traveling the world is scary, right? No, from my perspective, there's been times where I'm traveling in foreign countries and walking the street, I legitimately feel safer in their streets, in their country, than I do in my own country at night. It's just, so I've learned, in terms of being a different person before and after I left and started to travel, I feel like I have more confidence in civilization as a whole, in terms of kindness. I mean, the people have been just awesome.
Where did you get this inspiration from? What was the beginning? How did all start?
Yeah, so
the idea.
So I've always been plugged into a lot of self-help and such, and learning how to be a better me. And someone somewhere, there was a quote that said that in life, someone asked him, what do you want to be in the future? And he just simply said, happy. And that was interesting, because I was trying to determine what was the most important thing in my life. And when you break your life down into the most basic things, happiness seems to be the most important. I cannot think of something more important than happiness. To me, that's number one. Think of something more important than that? I can't. And so then I said, what would make me the happiest human being that I could be? And after a couple weeks of trying to figure myself out, I determined that the thing that makes me the happiest is travel the world and experience culture. That was it.
Which year was it?
This was
realization came?
probably 2015. And so I said, well, what makes me the happiest? And I said, travel the world and experience culture. And so I said, how can I make that happen? And then I just started.
So you've been traveling for the last 3 years.
Almost 3 years, yeah.
You were saying something about when you were 16, you started traveling.
I traveled with my parents at that time. We went to Africa. We went to Africa once, came back, and then I went to Africa alone for a month, and then I came back, and then we went to Africa together for a couple of weeks, and then came back. That was it.
How many siblings are you, if you don't mind sharing?
I have one brother, one sister, and then my mother and my father.
So
Yes,
people
I'm the
at
youngest.
Brock, about that family thing again. People at this age usually like fall in love, get married,
Yeah.
live a very romantic life.
Yeah.
So you are far away from this.
Totally. Yep.
How has it been possible?
I weighed
You are
my.
not married.
I am not. I weighed my options, and I said, I have two options. I can either stay in the United States, get married, have a family, buy a house, have the fast car, have all the fun stuff, right, and live the American dream. Or I could do this thing, which is to not do any of that and just to travel the world and experience culture. And no matter how long I thought about the pros and cons, because there are goods and bads, pros and cons to both sides, I determined that this is the one that I want to go and follow, which is travel the world. And so I said, this is what I'm going to do. Now that doesn't mean that I won't come across someone that I fall in love with, and then we have a family maybe.
So it's a
but
possibility.
it is, but extremely unlikely, because I can't imagine I'm going to find too many people in the places that I travel to. So it might be a bit difficult. But yeah, it was just happiness. I think I will be a happier person by doing this option than this option. So
fine.
that is the determining factor.
Brock, is your sister married?
She is not.
How old is she?
She is 35, I think.
I see.
So this is a typical Bangladeshi people asking this way. So like,
I was
so,
just-
this marriage
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
whether you brother, sister, etc.
Now you gotta say,
I'm
is
sure
she
this
looking?
this
Is she looking for marriage?
I'm sure this is not typical in the USA, right? These are like private matters,
Yeah,
family
it's not-
matters.
No, but he gave us a
So
pass.
this is
Yeah,
so
totally.
Brock,
He gave us a green
so
light.
this
at
is
the
also
beginning.
understanding
He
the
said that we
culture.
could ask
Okay,
just
people will
about
always ask you,
anything.
are you married?
Yeah, totally.
How old
India
are
as
you?
well. Yeah, don't. I have no
Any
time.
plan to write a book?
Nope. That has been suggested to me countless times, and maybe I would. It might be something in my later years, but for now, it's just talking to the camera every day.
that you stayed in a village in India for 1 month and you mixed with the students of the school. You taught there, you played with the kids just like another kid. How much did you enjoy this part, 1 month in a village?
It was awesome. It was great. My excitement comes from communicating to local people, and that was about 400 local people a day. So yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun. There were a lot of little crazy kids running around. It was fun though. It was really legitimately fun.
And they were really heartbroken when you were
It was not a fun day. It was not a fun day when I left. Yeah. Yep.
It was literally an attachment. Yeah, there was a sense of belonging that he shared with them.
Yeah,
So I'm sure you love to mix with the kids, with the young people, and with the adults. Anyone.
Any age group.
Human being. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally, totally. As long as they're kind, I'm happy.
Do you also sometimes talk to the women?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Of course.
I would say it's a bit more difficult traveling in India. I don't know what it's like in this country, but in India specifically, the women are more hidden, I guess. But in any other country, yeah, I mean, a man or a woman is the same and constant. But in India, I traveled a lot with a girl, specifically to shoot and travel and explore. She was a solo traveler as well.
You found someone?
Yeah, the girl who was giving you a ride on her scooty, right?
Yeah, totally. When I say found someone, yeah, it's just strictly travel friends. That was it. I mean, nothing more than that. But I think society, as we walked together, interpreted our closeness as a different thing. Yeah.
Do you have anything to say towards the students of this country?
Yeah.
You are also a teacher, and you love teaching.
Yes, I would say that for anyone who is studying right now, even before you go into university, I would say follow your passion. Don't think that you need to pick a job to follow money, because you will live the most boring life from start to finish by doing that. If you follow your passion, regardless of money, and you become good at what you're doing, the money will naturally come. You become good at something that you enjoy doing. Whether you make money or not, you are happy every day, and eventually you become so good at what you are doing that people will pay you money to do that thing for you. And because you are so good at it, you would specialize in that thing, and your income now is higher than the people around you. So my recommendation to any student is to figure out your passion in life as fast as you can and spend your time, effort, and energy on getting good at that thing.
What's your plan? Which country are you going to travel after Bangladesh?
After Bangladesh, I have to go back to India, and then I'll be there for a few months. I'm possibly going to China and Hong Kong or Pakistan. I haven't determined yet. Yeah.
Any plan to visit Afghanistan?
Nope, not yet. I don't know anything about that country other than the name.
Don't go there.
Okay, yeah, right. That would not stop me. That makes me want to go more now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If everybody's eyes get really big and says, "Oh, don't go
Stay
there."
away from Pakistan.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't go there.
Now I want to go more. Maybe I'll go next week.
You are crazy.
It's a very good conversation with Brock so far. Brock, we wish you the best of luck during your travel, exploring people, exploring culture, and many people around the globe will be inspired to know your story. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.